Assalamualaikum everyone. Today we are going to finally start with chapter 9. Okay, and this chapter is a general introduction about traffic data collection, and in the preceding chapters you will see that we will be talking about how to collect traffic data for each item. Okay, like each traffic parameter. So let us begin. First of all, why do we collect traffic data? Because we need to know these three things. Okay, the first is the current state of the system. Okay, when I say state of the system, I mean the road network itself. What is its current state? I mean the length, the number of lanes, shoulders, medians, bridges. Okay, traffic signals, their timings. Okay, this is what we call as current state of the system. So the first thing you need to know is what system you have. Okay, so all these things are part of the system. Then we have the current demand on the system. Okay, so you need to collect some traffic volume. Okay, and there can be other methods to find out demand as well. I told you in the previous chapter that demand may be over capacity, then volume may not be giving the exact demand. So there are other methods to find out demand, but the point is that you periodically find out the demand. Okay, and why? That is for the third point, for future projections. Okay, so we need demand for multiple time periods so that I can know the trend and I can do, or I can forecast something for the future. Okay, so if I give you a point, for example, if I tell you the demand for this highway right now is 10,000 vehicles per day, what will be the demand after 10 years? Now you cannot tell me if I do not tell you what was the demand before that. Okay, so if I give you the demand in the 1 year ago the demand was this, 2 years ago demand was this, then you can plot it, or you can find out the percentage change in the demand. Okay, and then you can forecast something for the future. Okay, in 2 years it has changed by this much, so after 5 years it will change by this much. Okay, so we need to do future projections. Okay, and this is why we need traffic data as well. Okay, before you start and before you go for traffic data collection, you must know what is the use of this data and what type of analysis you are going to perform on this data. Okay, for example, in your term project, I already told you, because we did not begin yet. So I told you, if you look at the guidelines, it was mentioned that in the second submission you will be required to submit speed samples for 62 cars. So if you want to submit, or if you want to collect speed of 62 cars now, then you must do it in free flow conditions when the traffic is very low and the vehicles are moving freely. Okay, so because I know what are you going to use it for in the future. Okay, you didn't know that, but you have to know. Okay, otherwise you will collect data at any time and it will be wrong. Okay, if you collect data during congested time, then you cannot use the speed for the purpose of this project. Okay, then you need to collect it again. Okay, so this is why I had to tell you. Okay, similarly, if you remember in the last chapter, I told you we have daily volumes and we have hourly volumes. Okay, and both have different purposes. Okay, for daily volume you calculate average daily traffic. It is used for planning and projection, and hourly volume is used for doing design and so on. Okay, so if I ask you, okay, collect data, volume data on this highway, then you should ask me, should I collect daily volume or hourly volume? Okay, and then I will tell you, okay, I want to use it for design. Okay, let's collect daily volume. Okay, or I want to use it for future projection. Let us collect daily volume. Okay, and so on and so forth. So you must know what is the reason you are collecting this data, and what are you going to, what type of analysis you are going to perform on this data. This will depend upon the time of data collection, the extent of data collection, your how many samples you need, and so on. Now, earlier, like maybe 10-20 years ago, when we said traffic data, it meant the data regarding motorized vehicles. Okay, cars mainly. Okay, and then you can add trucks and buses as well. That was the main theme of traffic data collection, that you want to know the travel of cars mainly, or buses, and collection with it. Okay, but now in modern times, people or governments have become more aware about serving the other modes of transportation, because they have seen that if you keep on increasing cars, I told you in the first chapter as well, if you keep on trying to design new highways for cars, it will keep on growing and growing. Okay, and then you will have environmental problems, fuel consumption, congestion, delay, and so on. Okay, so now the focus is shifted towards serving the other modes as well, focusing on other modes of transportation. For example, pedestrians, bicyclists, buses, trains. Okay, so now traffic data must include multiple modes of transportation. Okay, so when I say traffic data, then obviously it's not part of the project, but in general, uh, you know, it must include the pedestrians and bicyclists as well, so that we can serve them better, so we can encourage their use. Okay, we want to encourage people to use other modes of transportation apart from cars, okay, or other motorized modes of transportation. Okay, so how can we do that if you don't know their demand? Okay, if you don't know the current state of the system for them. Okay, so now traffic data includes multiple modes of transportation, including everything: buses, taxis, pedestrians, bicyclists, and so on. Then the use of the space, the highway space for them, you must know that as well. Okay, so some spaces on the highway along the highway dedicated, and some of them are shared. Dedicated means they are for a specific user, or they are for a specific mode or type of vehicle. For example, you go on, let's say, Sheikh Khalifa bin Salman highway. The highway is only for vehicles. Pedestrians are not allowed, bicyclists are not allowed on that highway. Okay, so this is dedicated. Okay, you come towards the local streets in Ali or educational area or something like that, or similar streets like that. These streets are shared. They are shared by pedestrians as well as cars and buses. So they are shared. Okay, so how much space you have for dedicated modes, and how much space you have for shared mode, and which spaces are for which mode. Okay, so you need to know that as well. So traffic data now includes collecting data about motorized modes, collecting data about other modes of transportation, and studying the spaces allocated for them, either in the shared way or in the dedicated manner. Okay, now what are the different sources of data? We have some available sources. So the first two items you see here are the available sources of data. Okay, so they are, like, we have Ministry of Transportation in Bahrain, Ministry of Works in Bahrain. They collect traffic data or transportation data. In USA, they have departments of transportation. And why I'm mentioning USA particularly, I will just tell you in a moment. But in USA, they have departments of transportation. They call them DOTs. So each state, like United States, right? So each state has a Department of Transportation. Florida Department of Transportation, New York Department of Transportation, and so on. So these departments of transportation collect traffic data periodically, and they provide it, or they publish it on their websites, or they publish it in their reports. Okay, so you go to their websites, you will find reports and the websites from where you can download the data. Okay, and mainly this data is collected for planning purposes, for future projection. So this data is daily volumes, daily traffic, average daily traffic. Okay, so I know about departments of transportation in USA, but I don't know about the other countries. For Bahrain, they don't publish it online, but if you go to them, they are nice people, and they will give you that. Okay, they don't create much of a problem. Okay, so many of my senior design project groups have gone to them, and they usually, if they have the data, they give it to them. Okay, so it's not publishable, but it's at least accessible. Okay, it's not published but accessible. Okay, and then you have now free websites as well, which are publishing traffic data for speed and travel time. Okay, for example, there's a website which they call as TomTom. I don't know if you have heard this word. It's like Google Maps, but it is a Google map, or it's a map for the traffic data. Okay, so they publish traffic volume. I don't know how they collect it, but they publish traffic volume. If you use Google Maps for navigating, or like you use Google Maps when you're navigating through your GPS, right? So they are also showing you, you go by this route, it will take you this much time. You go by this route, it will take this much time. So they are also using some sort of traffic data about the speed and travel time as well. And the traffic map, if you go, I think Google provides you a traffic map as well, at which highways are congested, which highways are not congested, and they show it in different colors. Okay, so again, the traffic data is there. Okay, so these are free websites which are providing you with the data. Okay, King Fahd Causeway Authority have their own website, and they publish traffic data, daily traffic data, online. Okay, so two sources of data are the websites and the data published by the authorities. And then we have the data collected from the field. So we have traditional approach, which was collecting the data by hand through using hand counters or board counters, or using portable counters with tubes. Or there is a tablet app as well. Okay. Although app is a new thing, but the method of data collection is the same as a hand counter. Okay. Let me show it to you with some pictures. So these two are hand counters. Okay, and this one is a tablet app, and this one, you see these two thin black lines here. These are known as tubes, pneumatic tubes, and they are connected to a counter. Okay, so these tubes are portable. You can roll them up and you can take them away. Okay, so we call them portable counters. Okay, so all of them are portable. All the counters which you see, obviously tablet app is what you install on your app or on your phone. So there are counting apps available now in the Play Store as well as on websites. You can download them on your and install them on your app, or sorry, on your tablet or phone, and you can use them for counting. Okay, and then we have hand counters available where you count it using a actual counter. Okay, a physical counter. So in all the cases, the app gives you can see here, it's a graphical display. Okay, so you can see which type of vehicle you are counting, whether you're counting vehicle going to the right, whether you're counting vehicle going straight or left, and from which side. So you can see different sides on the app as well. Okay, this is coming from east and this is coming from south. Okay, so you can do the counting separately and for each side, for each movement, okay, in a graphical way, so it will cause less confusion. You can add details to your counting data, what type of highway you are doing, the timing, okay, the time of your counting, the direction. If you want to add any notes, okay, you want to erase the count, you want to transfer the count, you're going to save it. Okay, so app provides you all these things. If you go to come to hand counters, and obviously these things are not there, then you assign. So you can see different buttons are there, and with the buttons you can see the meters are here. Okay, so when you press the button, 1 is added to the meter, so you know the count. Okay, so whenever a vehicle passes, you press the button and it will add 1 in the count of the vehicles. Okay, then you need to do some manual recording here. Obviously with the app as well as with the hand counters, you have to press the button or click the icon on the app. Okay, so you are doing the counting basically. The board or the counter is just recording, just adding. Okay, just doing the addition. With the board, obviously there is no physical, there is no graphical display here, so you have to assign. So this button is for turning right, this button is for going straight, and so on. Or you can say I have 3 lanes, so this one is for lane 1, this one is for lane 2, this one is for lane 3. Okay, so these counters, the first one are more appropriate for straight highways, and this one is more appropriate for intersections. Okay, so these are for segments and these are for intersections, because on the board you can see different sides. Okay, so if you are counting the side coming from east, you can count from here. If counting the side coming from south, you can count here, and so on and so forth. Okay, and again you have different buttons for different types of vehicles of different lanes. Okay, you can assign one button for each type of vehicle as well. So here you say this one is for cars, this one is for trucks, this one is for bus. If a bus passes, I will press this button. If just for car passes, I will press this button, and so on. Okay, and then we have the pneumatic road tubes. These are very commonly used. Pneumatic road tubes are very commonly used in Bahrain. Okay, if you move around enough, and I believe you do, then you will find these thin black tubes on the road, and they are very easy to spot because they are laid across the road. You can see there, they are laid across the road. Okay, at the end of the tube, there's a counter on the side of the road. So whenever the vehicle passes the tube, it records the time of passing and the number of the vehicles. I don't mean the registration number, I mean the number of vehicles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so they are very common. Okay, especially nowadays they are doing a lot of construction work on main highways as well as on streets. So on repair, maintenance, expansion work, so you will find them most often near these sites. Okay, because they want to know how much volume is increasing or decreasing, and they want to manage it. Okay, so they are very common now. You can see it in Bahrain. Then we have site fire or radar detectors. Okay, so these are permanent detectors, and you install them on the side of the road. On the side of the road. If you want to see its example, when you are going out from any secured facility, for example, nowadays hotels are very secured. Campus, university campus, if you're going out from the campus, so there's a barrier. Okay, there's a barrier for coming in, there's a barrier for going out, right? So when you're coming in, they will open the barrier if they are satisfied with you. So that is manually operated. But when you are coming out, you will see that when your vehicle is near the exit, the barrier will open itself. So the barrier is operated through a radar, through a detector. So that detector is normally installed on the side of the road. You can see it installed on the side. If you are using any type of automatic gate or barrier, you will find that they have some radar which is installed on the side of the road. Okay, so it detects the vehicle and it opens the barrier for you. In the same way, you can connect it to the counter as well, or it is connected to the counter, and whenever a vehicle passes, it can record that one more vehicle has passed. Okay, then we have point detectors. Okay, now point detectors, again permanent detectors, and they are installed below the surface of the road. Below the surface of the road. So again, you can find them in Bahrain as well, at intersections where they are using smart signals. So these detectors are connected to the signals. Okay, so they are installed under the surface of the road. Okay. Again, the purpose is the same. They can detect the vehicle count when it passes over them. Then we have video-based measurements. Okay, so the concept is very simple. Take the video of the road. If you want 1 hour of data, take video for 1 hour, 2 hours of data, take video for 2 hours, and so on. Bring that video with you, and you can process the video yourself. Take measurements from the video, speed, number of vehicles, number of cars, trucks, buses, density, whatever. Okay, so but one thing which you have to do is the video has to be taken from a vantage point. What is a vantage point? Vantage point is a very common terminology used in military as well as in filmography and in filming. So it means a point from where you have a good view of the field, a good view of your area, whatever your area is. So for us traffic engineer, our area is a highway. So a point from which you can have a good view of the highway. Now, why vantage point is important for video-based measurements? Because let's say you have 2 or 3 lanes on the highway. Now, if you place a camera on the side of the road, like a detector, and it is, for example, your height, so it's like you are, the same height as you are taking a selfie, right? So what will happen? A truck may pass in front of the camera, and that truck will block the view of the camera for other vehicles. If there's another vehicle behind the truck, which is moving from the other lane, it will not show in the camera. Okay, so we need a vantage point, and normally that vantage point is from the top. Okay, and that's where the drone technology is now used as well. Okay, is used very often. I'm not seen in Bahrain, but in other countries, in USA, even in Pakistan, they have just purchased my university where I used to work. They have just purchased these drones and they have collected traffic data and they have published papers on it. Okay, so they call them UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. UAV, manned aerial vehicle. Okay, so these, so you need a vantage point from the top. Okay, so if you have a pedestrian bridge, you can go there, you can use a drone, you can use top of a building or something like that. Okay, then we have smartphones and other devices which come with applications to measure traffic data. Okay, so I already told you about a speed gun, the application to measure the speed. We have counting applications as well, like I told you, for intersections, and even for simple counting, there are applications available. We have applications for measuring the distances and angles as well. And in some of the modern phones, it is connected to the camera, so you don't have to install any new application. It's already there. You can measure distance and you can measure angles. Okay, and even areas as well. These smartphones itself can be used as a source of data. Okay, and this is the next point. Okay, now I am telling you this is also an existing source of information, but I did not discuss it with these two, the first two. Why? Because this information is available, but first of all, it is private, confidential. Okay, so it's not easily accessible, and secondly, it is not readily usable as well. So it's not like somebody gives you the data of GPS tracking and okay, you have everything, speed, and no, you have to process this data a lot. You need applications and softwares to process the data to have the traffic data, to have the traffic parameters. Okay, so data is there, but it needs processing, and first of all, it needs to be gathered, like it needs to be acquired. It's a sensitive issue, and secondly, then you need to process it. So for example, GPS tracking. Some companies track their vehicles, taxi companies, truck companies, bus companies. Okay, so they track their vehicles, like Bahrain bus transportation. They have their own tracking system, and you can track the movement of the bus from their app, right? So they have some tracker inside the vehicle. That's why they are tracking, right? That's why they can tell you. You put GPS trackers on your vehicles for safety and security reasons to avoid any theft, or for insurance companies or for maintenance companies to come and get you if your vehicle is broken down at some point. Okay, so you do tracking yourself, or sometimes you open the location of your vehicle or open the location of your phone, and as you are moving, the location is being tracked. Okay, and it is part of your, if you are logged into your Google account, it becomes part of your track record. Okay, so you can actually go there and see from which places you have, or which places you have visited frequently in this week or something like that. So GPS tracking data is available because of multiple reasons, and if you can acquire it, okay, if you have the permission to use it, then you can. Obviously, you have my whole track, right? You have my route, you have my speed, you have my travel time, you have my travel distance. Okay, so everything is there. Okay, then we have electronic toll collection. In some countries, on causeway, if you go through the causeway, they have a toll booth where you have to pay a tax to move through the causeway. In other countries, these toll booths or toll collection units are installed even to move within the country as well. Okay, Singapore, London, even in Pakistan, there are highways on which you have these toll booths, and in order to pass from the toll booth, so in order to use the next section of the highway, you have to pay a tax. Okay, so it is known as toll. That tax is known as a toll. On most of the locations, I'm telling about Pakistan, most of the locations the toll is collected manually. So you go there, they stop you, you pay the money, and then you can move ahead. In developed countries, okay, or even in Pakistan, for people who travel regularly, they will give you a card, and you can recharge that card And whenever you are crossing from the toll booth, you just swipe the card and then you can move ahead. But in other developed countries, it is more advanced technology. So they install a chip in your vehicle. Okay, and that chip is known as a RFID tag. RFID means radio frequency identification. Radio frequency identification. This is what we call as RFID. So an RFID is attached to your vehicle, okay, and you recharge your ID of the vehicle, and whenever you are crossing the toll booth, it will just scan the RFID, and it will deduct the amount of toll from your account. Okay. So no matter what type of tolling you are using, what type of toll collection you are using, obviously electronic is more convenient. Okay, but whatever type of toll collection you are using, if you have enough toll booths, then you can have the IDs of the vehicle which have passed from this toll booth. You can have their time, and you can again do the same thing, find out how many vehicles have passed, find out their speed, find out their travel time, and so on. Okay, so in developed countries, all vehicles usually have an RFID because there are so many toll collection units, so many toll collection points. Okay, so you need to have an RFID. You need to recharge the account of your vehicle because you will be paying a lot. Okay, so we are, we are alhamdulillah in a much better situation where we don't have to pay just for crossing the highway. Huh? So again, this RFID data or this toll data is available, and if you can get it, then you can find out how many vehicles have passed, the speed of the vehicles. Okay, from one toll point to another toll point, what was the travel time? You can calculate the speed using the distance and so on. Okay, so this data is available. Okay, but it is not easy to have, first of all, because obviously it's a confidentiality issue. You don't want other people to know where you are going and what time and so on. And then the need for processing it. But one of my former colleagues, he is now in Belgium, and he let me work on a project for a few months. And that project was about using the GPS tracking data to find out traffic volume and travel time and speed and so on. Okay, so the project, everything about the project is available online. You can go and see. It's known as Track and Know. So they were able to get the data from some company who was tracking their vehicles, and their vehicles included trucks and taxis mainly. So they have the data, and they use this data to find out travel time, and I was able to work on that as well. So they made some sort of a GIS map. Okay, and they have their own newsletter which is available online. Okay. Search with this name, you will find it easily. Okay, why do we need to collect traffic data? What can we do with the traffic data? Okay, first of all, we need traffic data. We need to collect data for managing the physical system. Physical system means the infrastructure. Okay, the things which are fixed within the right of way of the road. Okay, for example, the road itself, traffic control devices like signs, signals, speed and roundabouts, markings. Okay, detectors and sensors, light fixtures. Okay, so these are some of them. They can be anything which is part of the system of the highway. Okay, so you collect data about you collect traffic data to manage it, to manage the system. Okay, and do the replacement and maintenance if and when required. Okay, so you monitor the system, and whenever you feel that something needs replacement or maintenance, you do that. Okay, then for establishing time trends and predicting future problems. Okay, and this is what I was telling you about in the first slide. So you collect data periodically, so you can see the trend of data, and you can predict what will happen in the future. Okay, if there's congestion going to happen in the future, if the highway will no longer be functional in the future, and so on. Okay, understanding the travel behavior, meaning what? Understanding how you travel and why you have traveled in this way. So for example, you are going from area A to B. So how do you go from A to B? Do you go by bus or taxi or car? Okay, if you go by car, which highway do you take? If you go by bus, then which bus do you take, and why? Why did you make these choices? Why were you using the bus? why are you using this bus, not the other one, and so on. Okay, this is understanding travel behavior. Okay, so you need to collect traffic data to understand that. Then calibrating basic relationships and parameters, and most of them we have already discussed. For example, PRT, perception reaction time. Okay, headways and spacings, we already discussed them, right? Gap acceptance, we have discussed it, but I will tell you again. Gap acceptance is the amount of space you will be you are willing to leave between you and the other vehicle before you come in front of it. So for example, this is a highway, this one, the straight line, and I'm coming from this lane or from this ramp. Okay, so I'm standing here and there are vehicles coming from this direction. So this is the direction of the highway. So there are vehicles coming like this. Okay, so how far should be a vehicle that I will feel safe to enter the highway? This will be called as my gap acceptance. So if I will only enter the highway if I feel there is enough gap between me, I'm standing here, and the vehicle coming from this side. Okay, only then I will try to enter the highway. Okay, so said how much gap you feel safe. Okay, so these parameters are obviously taken from the field. Okay, so you need to do some field studies for that. And calibrating basic relationships also means that you try to find out the equations. Okay, so in the last chapter we had some curves for speed, density, and flow, and we were driving the equations for them. So how did we started driving the equations? First of all, we plotted the curve between speed and density. So how did we plot the curve? We plotted the curve by taking the data. Okay. Then assessing the effectiveness of improvements through follow-up studies. So once you have made any improvement on the road, then you need to do a follow-up study. Are you getting the desired results? Sometimes, because obviously you cannot, only God knows what is going to happen in the future. Okay, so you assume that if I make this improvement, this problem will be solved. For example, there were too many accidents, so you assumed that if I reduce the speed of the highway, the accidents will reduce. This is only an assumption. This may not actually happen. Okay, so you need to do a follow-up study to see if this is happening or not. Okay, and so on. Then assessing the impacts of new developments and providing data for air pollution models. So whenever you are doing some new development meaning new shopping plaza, new residential complex, new bridge, new dam, okay, all of these are known as new developments. So what will be the potential impacts of these new developments? Okay, so if I make a shopping plaza, what will happen to the traffic? What will be the parking situation? What will be the impact on air pollution and noise pollution, and so on? If I construct an airport, again the same thing. Okay, so you assess the impacts of any potential development by doing some traffic impact studies. They are called as traffic impact studies. Okay, and obviously we have equations to calculate air pollution levels, and these equations need the traffic data. Okay, so even for future air pollution levels, you need to have traffic data. Okay, then evaluating the performance of system or facility in terms of mobility and accessibility. So I told you earlier in chapter we discussed mobility and accessibility, right? So mobility is the ability to move, and accessibility is the ability to access an area from the highway. So to how much, to what level the mobility and accessibility is provided by your system and by your highway. So facility means a single highway, and system means the network of highways. Okay, so I told you mobility means that you will have more speed, and accessibility means that you will have exits and entries, and you will have intersections and so on. Okay, so to what level you are providing these things and in which quality. Okay, so you are increasing the speed, but the drivers are feeling uncomfortable and they are finding it hard to change between the lanes and so on. Then the quality is not good. Okay, so for evaluating the level of mobility and accessibility for a facility or for a system, then you need to do traffic survey, you need to collect traffic data. Okay, these are types of studies we do for traffic data, and we will discuss each one of them starting with volume. Okay, we have already discussed volume in the previous chapter. So volume is the measure of demand, right? Volume is the measure of demand until the demand does not exceed capacity, right? I told you I showed you in the previous chapter, and the demand goes above capacity, then you will have a queue. So the volume will be less than the demand. Okay. So, but until you reach the point above capacity, the volume remains equal to demand. So for most of the cases, you can take volume equals to demand, because congestion happens for very few hours in the day. For the remaining maybe 15-20 hours of the day, the volume is equal to demand, because the demand is less than capacity. Okay, so volume is the primary measure of demand. Okay, and volume is used, I told you again in the last chapter, we have daily volumes and we have hourly volume. Daily volume is used for planning, projection, and hourly volume is used for design of traffic control devices, design of managing traffic operations, okay, designing signal timing. Okay, so these are all different applications of volume data. Then we have speed data. Speed data is mainly collected for safety reasons. If you have safety problems on the highway, too many accidents are happening, then one of the obvious reasons is the speed. Either the design speed of the road is not good, or the drivers are over speeding because of some reason or some. Okay, so 99% of the cases, accidents are related to speed. So you do speed studies to see if the existing speed regulations are appropriate. If they are not, then what should be the new ones? By speed regulations, I mean the speed limits. Okay, do you need a speed hump or a speed camera at that location? Should I change the fine or things like that? Okay, so now you would say that, okay, fine, if all the sides have problem because of speed, then whatever side has the problem with the speed, we should reduce the speed, right? That less speed will be beneficial, right? The problem with that is what I told you in the first chapter, that you have to take due care. Okay, meaning things cannot be done arbitrarily. Okay, you cannot assume every time that there are accidents happening, so reduce the speed. Okay, or reduce the speed by 10 kilometers per hour. Why 10 kilometers per hour? Or put a camera at this point. Why this point? Why not some other point? Okay, so you need to do some speed studies to come up with a decision on some rational basis, on some logical basis. So you have the evidence to show that I collected this data, and this data is showing me the problem is with the speed, or the problem is with something else. Okay, so speed studies are done for safety concerns and to know if the current speed regulations are viable, if they are feasible, and if they are not feasible, then what should be the new ones. Then we have travel time studies. Travel time, I told you, is directly related to speed. Okay, so one of the reasons of doing travel time study is to find out the speed. Okay, so you have the travel time, you do distance upon travel time, you get the speed. Okay. There are other uses of travel time as well. What are those? As a motorist, or meaning a driver or a passenger, you measure the quality of service of the road or traffic flow in terms of travel time, and travel time is directly related to congestion on the road. Okay, so if you ask a driver which highway is good at this time and which highway is bad, he will tell you his opinion on the basis of what? His experience of travel time. This highway is good because it has less delay, it has less travel time. This highway is bad because it has higher delay, higher travel time. As simple as that. Volume as a driver, right? Volume, density, speed. You don't measure these things. Okay, spacing and headway. You are just concerned with how much time it will take me to go from point 1 to point 2. Okay, and obviously your travel time is directly related to congestion. If you have congestion, obviously your travel time will increase. Okay. Another application of travel time data is the demand forecasting models. We call them traffic assignment models. So you see that to this area, let's say this is an area, and in this area 20,000 people come every day, and these three are the highways which are connecting this area. Okay, now these 20,000 obviously will come from the same highway, right? There will be some of them will be coming from this one, from this one, from this one, so they will be distributed. So how they will distribute? They will distribute on the basis of their travel time. Okay, so if I'm coming from this area, for me this highway has less travel time, so I will choose this one. Okay, I am coming from an area where this highway will have less travel time, so I will come from this one. Okay, so the total traffic is assigned or distributed among the highways in terms of their travel time. Okay, people will choose highways on the basis of their travel time. So these people are part of the demand of the highway, right? Demand is what? Number of people want to use the highway. So who want to use the highway? What type of travelers will want to use a particular highway? The travelers who are having less travel time from this highway. Okay, so demand forecasting models, when you are calculating demand for each highway, you calculate it using the accurate travel time. You must know the accurate travel time from this highways to calculate the demand for that highway. How many travelers will want to travel from this highway? Okay, so I'll stop here. Let me see something. Okay. Do you have any questions regarding this? I have posted a trial quiz because now there's a new version of the Blackboard. Okay, I have tested it, but the link is there. If you go to your Blackboard, you can see the trial quiz. Okay, and you can try. It's just a trial quiz. Okay, it has nothing to do with the grading. The real quiz is tomorrow. I just want to see. I already seen it. I've already seen it. There's no problem. I've checked it myself, and there are a couple of other students who have checked it as well. So even if you don't check it, no problem. Okay, but it's a trial quiz. Don't be worried if you see the trial quiz. The trial quiz is the next. No, it's not the actual one. I just posted it to know if there are any problems. Okay, Alhamdulillah. When I posted it, it was having some problems at that time. Okay, because I think it takes some time to upload. Okay, but alhamdulillah, the test is already uploaded, it's working, and I hope there will be no problem tomorrow, inshallah. Okay, so don't be scared about the trial quiz. Okay, it was just for posted to see what happens. Okay, alhamdulillah, everything is working fine, but if you want to check it, no problem. Okay, can I increase the time of the quiz? No, because the quiz is very short, it's open book, and you know the type of things that happen when you have lots of time. Okay. This question we didn't do it. This question is in the slides which we are covering right now. Yeah, it's from the topic we are covering right now. Abu Bakr, what is it clear now or not? Is my voice clear now? I think Ibrahim can hear me. He already gave me his response. Fatma, I think you can hear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Yeah. Whew. So I should start singing then, right? Okay, Dua Rabi. Yeah, quiz is on lecture time on Blackboard in your own section. Yeah, in your own section time, at your own section time. Dua Rabi. Amna Muhammad. Amna Muhammad. Muhammad Usama. It's open book. You don't have to use the cameras, Ibrahim. Mohammed Usama. Everybody is more interested for the
Yes,
test.
doctor.
Usama
Yes,
is
doctor.
here. Okay.
Yeah.
Amal Abdullah. Amal Abdullah.
Doctor, they raise their hand, but you cannot see it.
Say again.
They raise their hand and you cannot see it. They are here.
Really? Why not? There are no hands here. Is here. Amal Abdullah. She here? Okay. Ahmad Noman. Mohammed Noman. You can open your mic or you can type in the chat if I cannot see your hand. Mohammed Noman.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I can see. I can see the hand as well as the voice. Okay, Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad. Hakima Ali.
Yes, yes. Yes, doctor.
Ali Muhammad is here. Okay, fine. Hakima Ali.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Zahra Sayyed. Zahra Sayyed.
Yes, doctor.
Abdullah Jaliluddin.
Yes.
Fawz Adil is here. Fawz Adil.
Yes,
Okay. Abdul Rahman Ibrahim.
Yes, doctor.
Nujur Salah. Nujur Salah. Nadine Hussam. Okay. Zahra Riyad. Zahra Riyad.
yes, doctor.
Okay.
You skipped my name.
Zainab Ali Ahmed.
Yes, doctor.
Zainab Ali Ahmed. Lulwa Ibrahim. Lulwa Ibrahim. Mariam Abdul Amir. Mariam Abdul Amir. Lulwa is here. Mariam is here or not? Bashar. Masht Bashar.
Yes, doctor.
Bashar is here. Asil Hassan. I'm sharing the screen so you can see I marked you. If I marked you, you can leave. Okay. Asil Hassan, Ali Mustafa. Ali Mustafa. Hamad Khalid. Hamad Khalid. Yeah, Abu Bakr, I marked you. Hamad Khalid. Okay, Abdullah Usamuddin is here. Latifa Ahmad.
Yes, Doctor.
Fatma is here. Zainab Abdali. Zainab Abdali. Asil is here, okay. Abu Bakr, I already marked you. There is no problem with the mic. Okay, Zainab Abdul Al. Zainab Abdul Al. Ala Salman. Ala Salman. Isra Abdul Kareem. Isra Abdul Kareem. Ali Abdul
Yes.
Razak. Isra is here, okay. Ali Abdul Razak.
Yes, Doctor.
Elizabeth Ann. Elizabeth Ann. Ali Makki. Ali Makki. Ibrahim is here, okay. So some of you, Elizabeth is here and Zainab Abdul Al is here, okay. Elizabeth, Zainab Abdul Al is here. Zainab Ali Ahmad is here. Ala Salman is here. Okay, who else? Let me call out the ones which I didn't mark. Dua Rabi. She here, Dua Rabi. Zainab Abdali. Zainab Abdali. It's 20. Who is this 20? Ali Makki is not here. And that's it. Zainab Abdali is not here. Ali Makki is not here. Hamad Khalid. Ali Mustafa. Mariam Abdul Amir. And Dua Rabi. Okay, all the best for tomorrow. Inshallah, everything will go well.
Doctor, I'm from section 1.
Section 1, okay.
Yeah.
Iman Kamil, okay. mean, okay, done. Okay, so hopefully you will have a good quiz tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.